Hey, Vinyl Community, Jeff here again, and I want to do another contest. Entry. I am thinking of doing a contest. But anyway, for this one, I want to enter a contest that's coming up to ending soon this week. Yeah, 15th July. This is for Ron Haggerty. He originally started off a contest, and it was centered kind of around Exodus. That's one of the gifts he's given away. He recently, not too long ago, expanded it to be pretty much your favorite band, period. So, I will say, in going with the original X system, I did want to show this and tell a brief story. I do have a couple Exodus albums. This is probably my favorite, just because it's where I started. I bought this when it came out. To me, this was probably one of the most brutal albums that I had ever heard up to that point. I had been into Metallica and stuff like that, but this was just like the vocals and everything. This was just, to me, the most extreme band at the time. Had also spent a little time listening to Slayer, so this was taking it to me, was taking it to the next level. It was just pretty heavy, but it didn't take long before the songs have sort of a, I hate to say hooks, but they kind of do. There were just certain things about the songs that just really connected. But anyway, one of the funny songs about it was I was rooming with the guy at the time who, I was in the military and had a roommate, and he was not into heavy music at all. And I forget, there was something, we had a disagreement and some kind of spat over something, and I just remember putting this on at extreme volumes and kind of irritating him. He left eventually for the day, but yeah, you know, childish things you do when you're 19 years old. But anyway, I used this as a tool to aggravate someone who was not into heavy music at all. So anyway, yes, great album. Love this album still. And the early albums of the day, are probably my favorites. When you get into the 2000s, they got a little darker and everything. Still, I love the music of that time frame, but for me, the rawness of this, just great thing. So that's the little Exodus thing. So going into the contest itself, favorite band, favorite album, least favorite album, how many times have you seen them live? Now, I don't have a favorite band. I have favorite bands, plural. Now, of course, you know, I always harp back to Kiss. That's where I started. But, you know, are they my favorite band? They are a favorite band, but I have a lot of favorite bands. And so rather than just keep showing the same things every time we talk about favorite bands or things like that, and rather than just going through all the Kiss stuff again, I decided to go a different direction because there are other bands that, in my opinion, are, you know, on equal level of favoritism, but in different reasons. So I'm going with Dream Theater. Favorite album, Metropolis 2, Scenes from a Memory is typically what it's known as. This is the 1999 album. To me, this is where the band found themselves. This is when they really came to their own. They had some, you know, some good stuff before this, but to me, this is where the band just became spectacular and became very technically, they've always been great, but for some reason, this album just really clicked. It's a concept album. It's got storyline. But the musicianship, to me, felt like it was just on the next level. So I don't know if it's Jordan Rudess coming into the band, you know, whatever. But the band just, to me, this is where it just became just crazy good. And from here on out, you know, had a lot of crazy goodness over the next few albums. So for me, this is probably still my favorite album. Some of the songs from this album, they still are, you know, played to this day. It's one of their more popular albums, and rightly so. It's a great album. Now, as far as least favorite, obviously, I'm going to go with The Astonishing. I don't know. It's a mess. It is a concept album. It tells a story. It's got 4 albums. It just didn't do anything for me. There's a couple great moments on here, but overall, it just kind of feels forced. The storyline kind of feels forced. It's kind of long and slow. It just doesn't do much, and I'm not alone. I've heard other people say the same, and it's just, you know, I don't know. It's just it was a failure at an attempt to do, you know, this mega thing, and you know, I haven't been able to really get into it. So I've listened to it from time to time, and it just feels like it never ends, and it just feels very like the same thing over and over. It feels like so. I kind of wonder if I've even listened to the last album. I don't know how far I've made, because every time I listen to it, I start at the beginning, and then I don't know if I've ever made it through. Maybe I have. I'm sure I have at least once, but I need to give this a listen again because, yeah. Now, as far as how many times you've seen them live, I've only seen Dream Theater live once. They just don't tour in any of the areas. When I first got into them in Mississippi, they never toured Mississippi. Now I'm in Virginia. They came to Richmond 10 years ago. I saw them probably about 10 years ago. It was like the second or third album when Mike Mangini came in. So I did see them in Richmond one time, but they rarely come anywhere close. When I first got into them, I lived on Long Island. They're from Long Island. I had a chance to see them back in the 90s when they were they had enough momentum to where somebody told me, if you're not camped out there the day before, you're probably not going to get in. So I didn't go. I was just getting into them. They had already had the Pull Me Under hit, and so, they were becoming big, and they were playing at hometown, basically, within an hour of where they lived. It would have been hard, and it was a small club too. It wasn't like they were playing things. So I didn't try to go see them at that point, but that would have been cool to see them in their heyday. But they were starting to become fairly popular and already a big hit in the New York area. So I didn't get a chance to see them there, but I lived literally within an hour of where they basically started. So, but I have only seen them live one time and would love to see them again. I would love to have gotten to have seen them, in the Mike Portnoy years. That's my favorite era. And I mean, obviously I've seen, they are one of those bands that put out an album, studio album, and then a live album video, a live album, and a studio album, and a live album, and a studio album, and a live album. So I have seen them live pretty much for every album, but only, via TV land. So yeah, I've seen them play live tons of times, but only seen them physically in my presence one time. There you go. Quick one for Ron. If you want to jump on board to this contest, jump on it fast because it ends on the 15th. And I will see you later. Rock on and rock hard.